Hello, everybody, and welcome to From the Mezzanine. I'm your host, Lindsey Stone, and this is the Broadway podcast for the Broadway fans. On From the Mezzanine, we talk about all things Broadway grosses, Broadway news, and let's be honest, all of the tea and gossip that happens week to week in the Broadway stratosphere. I am joined by our new FTM regular, friend of the pod, Bryn. Hi, Bryn.
Hi, everyone.
What's going on? How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be back. Honestly, I was like, Lindsey, can I come on again? And
Of
here we are. I had
course.
so much fun and I'm excited to be here. Yeah,
I'm so happy to have you on, and we have a lot to talk about because last
a
weekend we went to
lot.
go and see Tick, Tick, Boom,
We
and then last
did.
night we saw Harmony on Broadway. And so we're going to recap both of those shows with y'all today, and then we will get into Broadway grosses and Broadway news. So let's talk about Tick, Tick, Boom first. And me and Bryn have an agreement that I'm going to go first about my thoughts because we differ in our opinions here. Feel free to chime in, but I just need my soapbox for just a hot sec.
I'll let you talk first.
Tick, Tick, Boom was at the Kennedy Center. And me and Bryn both are obsessed with the movie on Netflix. When that movie came out, I had no idea what to expect other than the fact that it was Jonathan Larson's semi-autobiographical story. So I was like, this is going to be freaking incredible because I think his story is so moving and heartbreaking. But Tick, Tick, Boom is before he saw any success. And it's basically him just clawing his way up to the top and working so hard. And you really get to see that side of him. It's such a masterpiece to me, but I knew that the movie differed from the musical, and I thought that it would differ a lot more than it really did. And it was actually very similar to the movie in a lot of regards that made me really happy because I obviously love the movie. But I don't even know where to begin. A huge reason I wanted to go and see this show at the Kennedy Center also was my first time in DC, which shout out. I am going to post a vlog like I talked about last week. Oh, wait, before we, we'll talk about it after Tick, Tick, Boom recap. Okay. Sorry. We have a lot to discuss. Okay. Vlog is going to be up on the YouTube, hopefully before this comes out. So if you want to watch our vlog in DC going to see this show, it is up on the YouTube From the Mezzanine. And while I'm talking about YouTube, I'm just going to go ahead and mention we hit 50 subscribers! Woo! So that means that I'm going to have to go make an absolute fool of myself in front of the Richard Rodgers Theater. I'm freaking out, screaming, crying, throwing up, not excited because I don't want to be cringe out here, but I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet. And
my mom actually asked me about it this morning on the phone.
Shut up.
I told her I was coming on the pod again, and she was like, what about the 50? What is that about? And I was like, well, she hit it. So Hamilton, here we go.
I have a vision that I think I can execute well. And it's literally just going to be a video on TikTok and Instagram. But I'm overthinking it so much because I've overhyped it so much. And so I will be posting that this week. So keep an eye out. If you don't follow me on TikTok and Instagram, you can find me by just typing in From the Mezzanine. And then if you want to be... We'll have to define a new goal for YouTube, but that was my goal. I was 50 subscribers basically in 1 month is pretty incredible. So thank you guys so much for subscribing. But let's not end it here. Let's continue to build up the empire of From the Mezzanine.
I know. I'm what will we do at 100? What will we do at 500?
Oh my gosh. Okay, but slight derail there. Tick, Tick, Boom. Where was I at?
Apologies.
Oh, we were talking about DC, his first time in DC. And a huge reason why I wanted to go all the way to DC just to see the show was because Henson was in it, who is literally, I think I dreamt about him last night. I love him. He's
baby
a
girl.
Sweetheart. I feel he would be my best friend if he knew me. I just feel we would get along really well. His mannerisms, when he's on stage, I just love his performing style. He's so funny. He's so understated. He's not trying to be the biggest funny guy on stage, but to me he just is because he's really good. He's really amazing. And he was playing Michael in Tick, Tick, Boom. So I was so excited to see Henson. And then also Jonathan Larson was played by Brandon Uranowitz. And I really enjoyed his performance. But overall, it was a really good show. I loved, stylistically, it was really interesting. They had, a movable camera that was, what's the word?
Projected
Projected onto the back of the set. And I thought that was so creative and so interesting and really gave like the look and feel of like similar to like Rent with like Mark, who is the filmmaker. It really just kind of like felt like the same brand. And I liked that a lot because I assume a lot of people are going to see Tick, Tick, Boom because they're Rent fans. Anyways, I thought that was really awesome. I just thought the choreography was so interesting. Like the Sunday scene when they're at brunch.
That was really good.
That was probably that, or like the moving on up scene was like the best. Such high energy. And I just thought it was an amazing production. And it's directed by Neil Patrick Harris, and we saw Neil Patrick Harris at the end, which was crazy. We were waiting for our Uber, and there he was. I'd never seen him before. And I figured like we might see him because it was only on for like a short stint. So like obviously he should be there. And he was so kind, signing everybody's like playbills. He like gave me a really good impression. But anyways, I don't know if there's anything else I want to say, but like I just loved it. I didn't feel like it was necessarily like Broadway caliber, but I didn't feel like it needed to be. Felt a little bit more like grassroots. It really felt like a good Tick, Tick, Boom production. All of the songs had the same meaningfulness and power behind them as in the movie. Like, I really, really loved it. Bryn, your thoughts?
Well, I did enjoy it. I love, like, as Lindsey said, I love the movie so much. And honestly, like, the movie is a big reason of how I got into Broadway and musical theater, and a big reason why I was like, I want to move to New York and all of this. And I think I set myself up so high for it that it was like inevitable to be a little disappointed in certain aspects. I think I like expected Andrew Garfield's voice, and that was my bad because obviously Brandon is not going to be Andrew Garfield, and also singing live on a stage is very different than singing in like a recording studio. Right. But so I think that threw me off a little bit. This was my big thing that drove me insane. This is a me thing. I get so distracted really, really, really easily. Like if someone's talking near me, if something's going wrong, I fixate on that. Like I get really distracted. And Gray Henson's mic, unfortunately, was not working. So there was like a full chunk where it was just like crackling, or like it was, it was being weird. It kept cutting in and out. You could hear like banging. He like flicked it at one point. You could tell he was like adjusting it because it just like wasn't working properly.
And it was his big moment, like his big song where he's like saying, like telling Jonathan basically that he has been diagnosed with AIDS. And so, but he's even distracted with his mic. So it definitely took you out of it. Oh, that sucked. That did.
My heart's like breaks for him. And it was during his big song. There was just like a background buzzing the whole time. And then he eventually came out, like the next time he came out, the mic had moved to the other side of his face. So they must have like tried the other side. But I just get really distracted by those kinds of things. I don't know why, but it like really takes me out of it. And it was interesting. We saw him after the show, and I overheard him saying to someone he was with, like, could you tell my mic wasn't working? Like it was the whole time. He was clearly frustrated.
Yeah.
I think also like when you have a show that's running for like a week with these really high caliber cast, you don't have a lot of time to rehearse.
Yeah.
And it was only the second night. It definitely felt like a little under rehearsed, but I'm just being like hypercritical of it because I love it, like the movie so much. And I love the music. Yeah. I thought the ensemble was fantastic. I thought all of them had incredible voices. I thought their dancing was great. Like the movement of the set I thought was really good. I think just like the mic really took me out of it, unfortunately. And it wasn't the movie. And I knew it wasn't going to be the movie, but that was like hard for me to swallow.
It was so
if that
short.
Makes sense.
Like it went by so, like I felt like we sat down, blink of an eye, got back up, it was over. And like it was so crazy because afterwards I was like, it's like a move, like this show means a lot to me. It makes me just like want to hold my friends so close. And I was like giving Bryn a hug. Alex came with us, friend of the pod, shout out Alex. And I like gave her a hug. I was like, I just love you guys. And they were like, you clearly had like a certain experience, because Alex and Bryn, they agreed, kind of like it was like they were a little bit disappointed. I feel like that's fair to say.
Alex really liked it. I think Alex liked it more than me. I think like right
Okay.
after I was like so disappointed. I was like trying not to cry, which is like so dramatic.
Oh my God, that makes me
But
so sad.
now that I reflect on it, I'm like, it was good. Like, I am
So
so
good.
glad I saw it. Like, I'm so happy we went. And also DC was just so fun.
Yeah.
Like that was great, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just hard to like not have certain expectations when like the movie means so much. But also I think the movie was longer, which is
Yes, it
crazy
was. Yeah.
that the movie's longer than the stage production. But I think my favorite song was Johnny Can't Decide. When they were singing Johnny Can't
Mm-hmm.
Decide and they had the harmonies of the ensemble coming in, that I think was my favorite, because I think it's so real, the like struggling artist life in New York
Mm-hmm.
City of like, why am I doing this for like a 0.01% chance of success? But it's what you love.
I think Brandon was really good in the role. I like,
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I said this on the podcast before. I thought that Andrew Garfield was really good because he's not a Broadway trained vocalist.
Mm-mm.
And you're running a risk when you bring in a Hollywood actor into a musical. A lot of people don't like that. But in his particular case, I mean, he's Andrew Garfield. He's a sweetheart and he's like one of our greatest actors right now. And so he
Mm-hmm.
was able to achieve that. But he wasn't professionally trained, and so he did have like a ruggedness to his voice and like not that professionality that I feel like a composer and like creator of a Broadway show would have. They're behind the scenes, they're not on the
Mm-hmm.
stage. Like Jonathan Larson didn't cast himself in Rent, and so I feel like Brandon's voice fit Jonathan really, really well because he is a Broadway trained performer, but maybe he pulled back a little bit. I haven't seen him in anything else, but I just felt like he wasn't like, his voice wasn't blow you out of the water, but I feel like that's appropriate for this
Mm-hmm.
role.
Yeah, I think as far as I know with Brandon, what his roles that he's won awards for have been plays.
Mm-hmm.
At least the most recent one, like Leopoldstadt, was that he won the Tony for was a play.
Yeah. But
So it's interesting.
He toured with Rent as Mark.
Oh, which is interesting because Anthony Rapp also doesn't have like the crazy polished, like perfect Broadway voice. I thought his mannerisms were very believable as Jonathan Larson. That's what I'll say.
He was a great actor, like really, really great.
Mm-hmm.
I would love, like, I really hope we see more Tick Tick Boom productions because I would love to see how other people interpret it.
Mm-hmm.
It is like a mind-blowing show to me, the fact that Jonathan Larson had the wherewithal before he had any success to write this freaking show that is so good. Like, to me, the music in Tick Tick Boom,
It's so good.
I like it. I probably like it more than like anything else. Like I like it more than Rent. I feel like I just resonate with it a lot more than Rent. And the story, all's that to say, I love Rent. Do not get me wrong. I love that show. But like if I were picking a favorite, like it's got to be Tick Tick Boom for its relatability. And like it blows my mind that he wasn't on Broadway at that time and he was writing this musical. Like it really blows my mind because the quality of it is unreal.
I think it's because in the 90s that was not the kind of thing that was on stage.
Yes, absolutely.
Like real life was not put on stage.
Yeah, no, you're 100%
and like
right.
The authentic like queer representation in it was not on stage and not accepted, and HIV was so stigmatized. And it was like a completely different time. So I think Rent is really what like opened the door for a lot of things. I think it was like bigger and flashier, so it was able to kind of open that door in a way that I don't think Tick Tick Boom would have been able to.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
But they're both, he was a genius
It just
composer.
makes you wonder, what would we have today if he didn't pass away?
Oh,
what would we have?
Yeah. Gives me goosebumps.
I know, me too. Like I have goosebumps right now. It's just, he had so much potential, but at least like he's still so relevant and so revered.
Yeah.
So anyways, does that wrap up Tick Tick Boom? Any final thoughts?
I think so.
Okay.
Oh, my last thought. Actually, I have one more thought. Gray Henson is so tall. I was so. Did you not?
Yeah, no, I did.
Shocked?
Because I know. Why did we not know that?
So I had seen Shucked 2 weeks prior, and like seeing an actor in two completely different roles within like a short period of time, I think is so cool and mind blowing. I saw Michael Urie in Spam-A-Lot a few weeks ago, and I just saw him again in Once Upon a Mattress. And it's like so cool. But Gray Henson, I don't know, like, is the entire cast of Shucked just really tall?
I don't think so.
Because Gray Henson next to Brandon Uranowitz looked like he was towering over this man.
It was crazy.
Whereas, like, I guess, I don't know, like, Alex Newell is pretty tall. Izzy McCalla in Shucked is wearing heels. But I'm like, there is no, I need to Google how tall this man is. Because I was in
let's Google
shock. When he came out on stage, I was like, did you grow in 2 weeks? It's crazy.
I also think it was like perhaps his costume, like he was in this big suit.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, do we really think this is going to be on Google? How tall?
But in Shucked, he looks like this like cute little boy.
I know. I was shocked. Okay. He was born July 2nd in 1990.
He's 34, 33.
I love him. I love him so much. Okay, believe it or not, I cannot find how tall he is. Gray Henson, if you see this, how tall are you? We need to know.
He's got to be over 6 feet.
Oh,
over
he
6
is.
feet for sure.
No doubt. Well, maybe we could find how tall Brandon Uranowitz is, and then that'll help us piece it together.
I feel like Brandon Uranowitz is short.
Yeah, he's short.
Also,
I think it was
interesting because Jonathan Larson was really tall.
Yeah, that was kind of like not like the greatest.
I mean, not that really like makes that much of a difference.
No, it doesn't. Okay, I can't find how tall Brandon Uranowitz is.
Shocker. Broadway actors' heights aren't on Google.
Oh, remember, Brandon was also in falsettos. Like, he's got a musical repertoire. All right, guys, how tall are you? We need to know. The FTM listeners need to know. Okay, so you saw Once Upon a Mattress. What did you think about that?
I actually really liked it. I think I went in with pretty low expectations. Usually, like, the Encore's productions are very good, and the cast was unreal, but I don't really like fairy tales and, like, that kind of story. But Michael Urie was so good. It made me excited to see Sutton Foster in Sweeney because I'm really curious. Like, her physical comedy is so good.
Okay.
So I'm curious to see her in Sweeney, like, doing, like, Worst Pies in London. I saw her in Music Man, but, like, I don't really remember much about it. So I'm excited.
That is a crazy thing to say.
I know. Sorry, everyone. I did not really love that show.
Like, people sold their card to go see that show.
I know, which is insane. I don't know. My mom bought them. I have no clue how much she spent on them, but it was pretty good. The cast, Cheyenne Jackson is so attractive. I love him.
What do I know him from? Oh.
He was in Glee. He was the coach of Vocal Adrenaline, but he's done a lot of Broadway stuff.
Is he he looks like a king or something? Is he the king?
Yeah, he's a knight. He's a knight.
Okay, I've seen him in like some of their press stuff. And yes, he is very attractive.
He's very beautiful.
I don't remember him from Glee, but I'm sure like in the recesses of my mind, that's what I recognize him from.
And J. Harrison G was great. It was overall for $28. It was really fun. There was one point where Sutton was like doing like a bit on top of a stack of like 15 mattresses, which obviously they weren't real mattresses. Like, they must have been like planks of wood. I couldn't watch because I was so terrified she was going to fall off because she was at least like 20 feet in the air with no protection. There was no railing. She was like hanging off head first. And I was like, I can't watch this.
It really makes me want to go see it. Is it already off? Or how long is it running? Do you have any clue?
It closes tomorrow.
Wow.
But honestly, I'd go back.
And how did you get the $28 tickets?
If you sign up for the City Center Access Club, I think it's either if you're under 30 or 35, and you can buy them online in advance.
That's such a crazy deal.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, they're not good seats, but for $28 for City Center, I think I paid like $200 when I saw Parade at the City Center.
Wow.
So.
And I've never seen anything there. That would just be fun to go.
Well, maybe we'll look at tickets.
Okay. And then we also have to talk about Harmony because we saw Harmony yesterday. We rushed it. I got in that rush line at like 8:10, and Harmony was doing like a promo. The first 18 in line got $18 tickets, and I was 23rd in line. Bryn was 24th. So we did not get those $18 tickets, but nevertheless, we got really good seats for rush tickets, which were $40. Yeah. What were your thoughts on the show, Bryn?
I think I liked it more than you did. well, just because like you talked first about Tick Tick Boom, I'll talk first about Harmony.
Yeah.
I went into it knowing that like the music wasn't going to be like an album I would listen to, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's just like not really my style. But the second act, I was just like on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was
Uh-huh.
like really invested in what was going to happen. I didn't know the story before. I had seen them perform. I'm going to tell a little story quickly. Mom, if you listen to this, don't kill me. But when we went to the Broadway in the Bronx
Uh-huh.
concert that Lindsey has talked about as well, Harmony was performing, and it was before it was open on Broadway, so like whatever. And there was this celebrity presenting at this thing. I do not remember who it was. And my mom was like, "Who is that guy? He looks so familiar." I was like, "Mom, I don't know. I wasn't listening." And so, whatever, we separate for 2 seconds. She comes back over. She's like, "Okay, so I just asked that group of guys over there, and they told me it was blah, blah, blah." And I go, "Mom, that's not a group of guys. That is the leading cast of Harmony." And like that was my impression of them, just like these six cute boys. So
Yeah.
funny. And I thought all of them were really good. And it's really special that they're all making their Broadway debuts. Julie Benko was so good.
Yeah.
It definitely, I think their fault is the marketing, because I'm surprised it didn't do better than it did, because I do think it is very meaningful and impactful, but it also isn't the kind of show that I'm like, oh, it's going to run for 10 years.
Of course. Yeah, I mean,
Because it's,
when it ended, I heard so many conversations, people being like, how could this not be running? This is going to be Tony like nominated. Like I was hearing Tony, Tony, Tony. Like obviously people are passionate about this show, and I'm going to love anything that's historical. Like if you're like teaching me something in a musical, I really value that. And so that was something I really liked. But yes, I do agree. From those early days when we were at like Broadway in the Bronx, I thought it was going to be a success, because I was like, they've got these attractive young men at the forefront of it who are very, very talented. So they did like their main song, like Harmony, we're singing Harmony. And then one of them steps out, what is his name?
Danny Cornfield.
He steps out and sings this like, whoa, awe-inspiring song. So from those early days, I thought, this is a show to keep an eye out for. So the fact that it is closing so soon is a major letdown, especially considering that it has been in the works since the 90s.
And the cast is phenomenal. Like the whole cast is really good. Chip Zien is so good. I think he'll definitely get nominated for a Tony. I think if this lasted till Tony season, it would do well in the Tonys. I don't usually, like, unfortunately, shows that are closed don't always do as well. I hope there's other runs of this in the future. I think I said to Lindsey after, like, I can see this being an Encore's production in like 10 years, because it just like gives that vibe. I also will say, I really like the show art.
I know. I was thinking about that today too.
I really like this playbill.
And it tells the story of the show. Yeah. And it has like the actors. So you're going to be reminded when you look at the playbill what the show was about. I know. I really like the show art.
Really
if only they would have marketed it more, it could have done so much better. But yes, I agree. This is, he plays Chip, like the older rabbi, Chip, and he will be Tony nominated. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And the only other person who I would really guess is going to be Tony nominated is Sierra Boggess for featured actress, because I really liked her performance. For me, the women characters were the moments where I was most engaged and enthralled in the story. Those were the high points for me.
I was going to say Julie Benko, but I think they wouldn't be featured. They'd be supporting.
Oh, yeah. Supporting.
So it'll be interesting to see. My one main critique of it, I will say.
I wonder if we share the same thing, because there's one thing I literally
ready?
hate.
3, 2, 1.
The set.
Yeah. It was like all mirrors, and it was really throwing me off because I could see them from above. And when like a backdrop would come down, because I was on the side, I could see who was coming out on stage before the backdrop went up.
Yeah. Okay.
It's weird.
Yeah. It took away some of the magic.
It was just like, it was distracting. I could see like the people in the wings from the other side of the stage, like in the mirrors.
Yeah, because it's a mirror. So let's paint the picture for the listeners. So on the stage, there's kind of a frame going all the way around the stage. And it's a big, thick, like probably 3 foot wide mirror. And then it's layered with another mirror. And then the entire back of the stage is something that can be like projected upon, but it is also a mirror. And so at every point in time, even when things are projected on it, it is reflecting all kinds of stuff, but mainly it's a dark audience. It's a dark black stage. It looks dark. And to me, that made it so boring, unfortunately, because it was like, no matter what kind of like things you bring out, because they were going like from town to like country to country, performing in all of these different places, no matter what, everything was just a dark backdrop, and it couldn't like, it just looked so bizarre. I hated the set, which is a crazy thing to say, because I'm never that picky on a set. I'm really not, but it just was like, we're staring at the same thing. And then, like you were saying, where she was positioned, we sat in 2 different places because of the rush tickets. They only had singles available. So
we got the last 2.
Yeah, she was on the left orchestra. And so she could see like the reflection from the mirror of like the people in the wings. Where I was in the front middle mezzanine. And so I could see so sometimes like they have these TVs that are on the mezzanine so that the actors can see the conductor, because the conductor was like behind the set. I hope that makes sense. And so they have these TVs to help you out. Where I was sitting, the mirror, I could just see the TV. Like, that is so distracting. It was a really awful set. And I'm sorry, it was Beowulf Borrett, I want to say, who is an amazing set designer. They did New York, and that one set design at the Tonys, like, they're really good at what they do. But this was not it.
I did find it interesting when they first, I think it was right after intermission, when they were doing like what is it called when the band plays before they come out?
The prologue? The second prologue?
No, like it has a name. It'll come to me. When they were doing that, they lifted the backdrop and I was able to see the band, like the orchestra.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. But then I was like, well, the fact that they're on stage, they're taking up like half the stage.
Yes. And you know what I just realized?
The overture.
There it is.
Yeah,
the overture. You know what I just realized?
What?
So like I said, the set designer was the same from New York, New York. I believe that what the orchestra was on was the same as what the orchestra was on in New York, New York. That looked exactly the same. Do you remember that? In New York, New York, the orchestra came up from the pit and moved to the back. And then at the end, they moved back up and went down. And that looked the same as this set. That looked exactly the same. Because it was like...
But they weren't on stage the whole time in New York, New York.
No, they were down, but they moved up. And this one, was just back there. But it looked like the exact same set piece. It's just interesting.
Interesting. I think I know you've seen Paradise Square at that theater. I've never seen anything else at that theater, so I don't know what the style of the pit is like. Where I know at the St. James, which is where New York, New York was, they have like a pretty big pit because for Spamalot, they're in the pit.
Yeah. Anyways, it was a good show. I do think that this actor, Chip, will get nominated for the Tony. Other than that, I'm sad that it's closing. I think it could have done better than it did, but at the same time, it didn't target me specifically. However, there's no doubt that a lot of people really, really love this show, and a lot of people feel very moved by this show. And yes, the second act kind of jolts you for sure. It's moving, but all in all, this could have found a good audience. I think it dropped the ball. And with that, let's head on into our Broadway grosses. Bryn, are you ready?
Yeah, I haven't looked at them yet.
Well, what are we excited for this week?
Well, actually, I looked a little bit and I saw that Harmony had gone up a lot.
Good.
I'm sure Gutenberg was really, really, really high.
Gutenberg. Yes, this is accounting for their last day of performances at Gutenberg. So let's predict what it's going to be at. I'm going to predict that it's going to be 5. That's my prediction.
I would say between 4 and 6.
So 5.
Well, either 4, 5, or 6.
No, you have to pick a number.
I'll go 6 because it'll be behind Hamilton, Wicked, Lion King. and what's the other one I'm forgetting? Merrily.
Yeah. Okay. This is kind of a crazy week. So, number 1 is Hamilton, which is
Wow.
wild. I haven't ever seen them beat out Lion King, at least in the past few months.
Wow.
So, number 1 is Hamilton, but not by a lot. Lion King is on their heels at number 2.
Mhm.
3 is Wicked. 4 is Merrily. And inches behind Merrily is Gutenberg at number 5.
Wow.
Oh my God, I'm so happy. I'm so happy for Gutenberg. They're last week and they're number 5 in the grosses. Everybody said they couldn't do it. Well, they did it. Gutenberg,
What was their capacity?
101.73.
Yeah, because they sold all the standing room.
Crazy. Yeah. Okay, so then 6 is MJ, right behind Gutenberg. 7,
I thought you were saying 6 was next, and I was like, what?
No. 7 is Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. 8 is Aladdin. 9 is Moulin Rouge, because this accounts for Boy George arriving. So, and Derek Klena coming back. Boy George isn't there yet?
I think Boy George started within the last week.
Okay, well, we'll see, but that's a good placement for Moulin
But
Rouge.
yeah, that's impressive.
Okay, 10 is Anne Juliet. That's great. And didn't they just have their 500th performance?
Yes, they did.
Good for them. Okay, so that means Back to the Future was bumped out, which is typically in the top 10. And then just to like give y'all an idea of what's inching towards the top 10, because now that Gutenberg's out, maybe some of these can bump in. So next is Book of Mormon, and then 6, and then Spamalot. Okay, so but we still haven't even said Sweeney. Like, Sweeney is far back.
Insane.
Yeah.
I think this week, the week we're currently in, so the grosses you'll talk about next week.
Right.
I think they'll go up a little bit because Joe Lucky from Heartstopper, I think a lot of people, like the amount of people on TikTok I saw who went for him, I think that'll help. And then
we'll see. I hope it does.
And then the week after that, it'll go way back up with Sutton and Aaron.
Yes. So excited, which BT dubs, I'm trying to rush next Friday so that we can go and see the first night with Aaron. Like, oh, guys, I can't even put into words how excited I am to see Aaron. I love that man. I love him so dearly. But what an exciting week in Broadway grosses. We'll talk more about Gutenberg in our Broadway news. But we have to say, we lost a Broadway legend this week. Our first news story is the news that Chita Rivera passed away on January 30th this past week. Yeah, she was 91. She lived such an amazingly fulfilling life. Obviously, we're like a younger generation of Broadway goers. And to us, we grew up hearing the name Chita Rivera. It's just like someone you always hear about who's just a legend. And Chita Rivera always continued to show up for Broadway. She was in so many of the Tony Awards. She was most recently in Tick, Tick, Boom, which of course we love. And she just, it's legends like that that continue just putting effort and love into the Broadway community. And she lived such an incredible life. Her rep announced with the announcement of her passing, quote, "It is with immense personal sorrow that I announce the death of the beloved Broadway icon Chita Rivera. My dear friend of over 40 years was 91, quote." But I feel like what I remember her most from is West Side Story. She originated the role of Anita on Broadway, which is just kind of crazy. Her Broadway resume is unreal. I implore you guys, like, when you're reflecting on this, because she had such an incredible life, like, go look up her Broadway resume and see all of the iconic roles that she originated. She was the original Velma in Chicago, which is just, like, that show is still on today. Like, her handprint will never be erased from Broadway. No. She was in Kiss of the Spider Woman. She had her own Broadway show, Chita Rivera, The Dancer's Life. And then most recently, her Broadway show was The Visit back in 2015. So rest in peace, Chita Rivera. You made such an impact on the Broadway community, and she will not ever be forgotten.
Also announced that same day, I did not know of him the way I knew of Chita Rivera, but Hinton Battle passed away. Who was a 3-time Tony winner. It was just a big day for Broadway.
Yeah.
Lots of loss.
Very sad. But you can find solace in the fact that they were both older and lived very successful lives. So
91.
I
That's
know.
pretty old.
And she looked amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw her so recently on something. Maybe it was a Kennedy Center Honors, but
Yes.
she never left the spotlight.
Mm-mm.
You could tell she loved her fans. She
Mm-hmm.
loved singing. She loved performing. Like, she was such a natural. I went back today
So
and I was
good.
watching a lot of her older videos when she was a lot younger and in her prime, and she was a pretty incredible performer. Okay, so we just have to talk about the good with the bad on this
Mm-hmm.
podcast because it's important.
Yeah.
Moving on, though, let's talk about some good. Gutenberg gave me the news I needed.
Mm-hmm.
Bryn, how many times last week was I like freaking out? Like, if I don't get a cast album, I am not going to be okay.
When we were in DC and it was closing weekend, I was concerned for Lindsey's mental health because of Gutenberg. And I'm going to plug right now to go to my TikTok because there is a recording of Lindsey reenacting the entirety of Act 1 of Gutenberg. I forget my TikTok username. Let me find that right now for you. It's just at Bryn Harvey Raymond. If you go to Lindsey's page, I'm definitely tagged in
I
something.
reposted it.
Oh, she reposted it. There you go. So you've probably already seen it. It is hilarious. But then that was on Saturday night. On Monday, we got the news that Lindsey's been waiting for. Lindsey, you go ahead and share that news.
That Gutenberg has already made a cast album.
Yeah.
And that they recouped their Broadway investment, meaning they are not a flop, which we all knew they weren't a flop, but this just gave us, I hate when a Broadway show that is so incredible goes down in the books as a flop, which like nobody really cares about, but it does like give it a little bit more credence to its success when it recoups its investment. But really the big story is that we get to hear might as well go to hell. We get to hear that as many times as we want come this spring when the soundtrack is released. Like, come on, I'm so excited. They literally closed, and I believe the next day they were in that studio.
I cannot believe that they didn't announce the album at the closing show.
Yeah, that was like kind of a missed opportunity.
That was shocking.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy.
I'm excited to hear these hands belong to a normal man.
A normal man who probably
changed your world.
Oh my God, come on. I was like telling my editor, fiance, Reed, who y'all have heard about, the elusive Reed, who works on this podcast a lot. I was telling him like the way that we are going to like play that soundtrack over and over in our apartment, like there will never be a quiet moment because we're both obsessed. Like I was telling Bryn, we don't talk anymore. Like we exclusively talk in like Gutenberg quotes. And I wish I was kidding. Like I'm not. Like we are obsessed with this show. There's no better show. It is so good. And there will not be a moment of peace in my life after this cast album is released.
I saw the funniest comment. I don't remember if it was on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, Reddit, one of the platforms I read about Broadway on. Someone said, can Bud and Doug host the Tonys? And I think that is the funniest, but also most genius idea. Like they can alternate between Bud and Doug and Andrew and Josh. I just like them with the hats on. At least if they don't host it, Bud and Doug specifically, not Josh and Andrew, but Bud and Doug should at least announce an award.
At least announce an award, or whoever like the host is, they need to just bring them into the big opening act. Like they could literally just have all of the different hats for all of the characters that are nominated for Tonys. Like I can see this, like it literally writes itself. Please have Bud and Doug host the Tonys. It's right
because
there.
Like plus Bud and Doug, it'll be their dream. Like it'll be these like cute little small town boys.
Oh my God.
It would be hilarious.
Okay, but here's my question. Do nominees ever host the Tonys though? Like, is that awkward if they host it and then they're also nominated? But if anybody were to do it, I feel like it would be them. Like they're so professional. It would be them. And they always have like a somewhat like Hollywood name host the Tonys, i.e. like Neil Patrick Harris, James Corden. And so they would be perfect. Like everybody knows Josh Gad, Andrew Rannells, but they're like a perfect recognizable duo to host the Tonys. Please, Tony Awards, please. And also give us a ticket, please.
You're going to hate me for saying this, but I don't think either of them are going to win. So I think if any nominees were to host the Tonys, it wouldn't be like the weirdest, but I think it'll be more likely. I'm sorry. I think Jonathan Groff will beat them.
I am editing that out.
No, you're not.
I am not promoting this rhetoric on my podcast.
I think they are both phenomenal. But what they do in that show,
you're gonna make me cry.
You haven't seen Merrily. It's a very different caliber. It's a very, 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 very different role. I think they are both incredible, but I do not think with the season we have that they will beat out Jonathan Groff, Chip Zien.
Why do you keep saying it? Why do you keep saying that?
I'm done. But I do think they should host or announce an award.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed having Bryn on. Bryn, thank you so much for coming on. You're never coming back.
Look.
No,
I love Gutenberg. I get it. I had so much fun when I saw it. I saw it multiple times. Lindsey, I rushed for us, so you cannot say anything because I got there at like 7:30 for us. So
I know you did. I know. I just don't support your views, and that's why I'm editing all of this out. I'm kidding.
You better not. Moving on.
Literally moving on for the sake of our friendship. Also, though, we have to like stick to the facts here and not just our craziness. So they fully recouped their $6.75 million investment, which for a Broadway show is pennies. That's not an expensive Broadway show at all. But the fact that they were able to recoup it in a 20-week limited run is really, really incredible. They set the box office record for the James Earl Jones Theater, and then they broke their own sales record in this last week, which was a whopping $1.4 million. That is so much money for this theater. Way to go, Gutenberg.
What is wild to me is that it costs so much to run a show that even when you're making $1 million a week,
I know, right?
It takes 20 weeks to make up less than $7 million.
And like they said, it costs a lot of money to rent out a Broadway theater.
Oh yeah. And you think about everyone who works on it, but compared to a cast of like 40, crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, yay, Gutenberg. You're freaking incredible. I'll support you till the day that I die. And I am anxiously anticipating this cast album. I cannot wait. They say it's going to come out in the spring. You can pre-order it now. I just cannot wait. All right. Next news story. We have officially gotten the cast announcement for The Great Gatsby. We talked about this the last time that Bryn was on, but this was just speculation. They kind of leaked the cast, but now guess what? It's official. Eric Anderson, my king, is coming to The Great Gatsby in the role of Wolfsheim. And like I said on my Instagram, if he was going to have to leave the Moulin Rouge, I'm glad that it's for The Great Gatsby, and I think he's going to be great in this role. Other than that, like we said a couple of weeks back, Noah J. Ricketts, who plays Nick Carraway, is incredible, and he's staying in the cast.
So good.
So amazing. Sam Pauly, who played Kay Howard in Six, is going to be Jordan Baker. Sarah Chase, who you may know if you look her up, she was in The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. She's pretty funny. She's going to be Myrtle, and she was good. And then I loved Tom Buchanan. I have no idea how to say his last name. John Zdrojewski. It'll be in the show notes, but he's going to play Tom Buchanan. And he's in that show you're going to go and see, Jonah.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
I saw that. He's a busy guy, but he's really, really good. And at the stage door, he was so nice. Anyways, I'm really excited about this show, as you've probably caught on to because I talk about it every single week. But just so y'all are aware, previews are going to begin March 29th, and it will open on April 25th at the Broadway Theater. Okay, so that's our Broadway news.
I have one more story to share about casting for the musical Suffs.
Oh, yeah.
Which I haven't really heard much about. It's really cool. The writer and composer of it is starring in it, which I think it's the first time a female has ever done that on Broadway. But I just found out on Instagram, I'm reading it because I don't want to butcher it. Jenna Bainbridge is going to be the first ever wheelchair user to originate a role in a Broadway musical.
No way.
Isn't that iconic?
That's iconic. So good. Yes.
So iconic. So happy for her. I am going to go see that show now because we love representation in theater. So needed.
And I'm really excited for Suffs. Like, in general, I think the concept sounds really good. I love a female-led cast, obviously. We don't get enough of those. And so that's really exciting that this is already going to, like, is planned to come to Broadway. When does it open?
That's a great question. I think maybe end of March. It's going into one of my favorite Broadway theaters. So I'm excited about that, the Music Box.
Lovely.
Which is where Pearly Victorious closes tomorrow.
Yes. Oh, tomorrow. Wow. Well, we were both really lucky to see that show. Previews begin for Suffs on March 26th, and opening night is April 18th. Super exciting.
It's one of those like 17 shows that open between March 26th and 28th.
Yeah.
Not 17, but.
Yeah, but Suffs has been like on the docket for a while. Like, we've known that it was coming to Broadway. So I'm super excited for it. I think it's going to be good. I'm ready for some really empowering women Broadway musicals. I love it.
Yeah. My light just died, so my lighting is bad now, but
we're having so many technical
difficulties.
So with that, we finally made it to the end. Thank you guys so much for listening. Y'all are the best. Like I said at the beginning, go and follow my social media channels. I'm on TikTok and Instagram at From the Mezzanine, and you can also find me on YouTube. Go subscribe over there, and we will come up with some crazy goal that we're gonna do next. And if you want to see my embarrassing Hamilton video, make sure you follow me on social media, and also our Washington DC vlog, which will be up soon on YouTube. Leave a review and a comment, guys. We've been like popping off in the performing arts charts. It's kind of been crazy. Like, this has been a really big week for FTM, and it's just because y'all have been sharing the show, y'all have been leaving reviews, and that does amazing things. And like, I see all that y'all are doing, and I appreciate it so much. So please continue to support this podcast. Share it with your Broadway bestie. And I will see you next Tuesday. Thanks, Bryn, for coming on.
Follow me on TikTok. I'm just kidding. Anyway, mwah.
Bye, Bryn. Thank
Love
you for coming on. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. Bye.